Hello and welcome to our special edition of Africa Today. As in this edition, we will focus on Egyptian Arab Emirates, United Arab Emirates relation, as President Fattah al-Sisi delivered a speech on Wednesday on the occasion marking 50 years since Egypt and the United Arab Emirates established relations. And in his speech to a celebration held under the slogan Egypt and the UAE One Heart, President Sisi hailed the distinguished and strong ties that bind the two brotherly Arab nations throughout times as a model pattern to follow. Also, the governments of Egypt and the United Arab Emirates announced the organization of a huge celebration to celebrate this occasion. The Prime Minister said that Egypt is eager to confirm the depth of strategic relations with this brotherly country and to highlight the extent of distinction and privacy that unites the two countries. More in this report.
Egypt and United Arab Emirates will organize a major celebration in Cairo to mark the 50th anniversary of bilateral relations between the two countries. Held under the slogan One Heart, the three-day event will begin on October 26. Ministers, officials, and 1,800 Egyptian and Emirati personalities, including businessmen, intellectuals, media professionals, and public figures, will attend the event. Dr. Hala Said, Minister of Planning and Economic Development, affirmed that the directives of the political leadership aim to enhance the cooperation with the United Arab Emirates in all aspects, especially in the economic field. She added that Egypt counts on the promising opportunities of cooperation between the two countries to achieve a prosperous future for the two nations and build a great model of brotherly relations between Arab countries. El Said explained that there are plenty of investment opportunities between Egypt and the United Arab Emirates in various sectors, including healthcare, pharmaceutical manufacturing, real estate development, financial services, and digital transformation, infrastructure, communications, agriculture, and food processing, among others. For his part, Mohammed Al-Gergawi, United Arab Emirates Minister of Cabinet Affairs, said that Egypt-United Arab Emirates historical relations represent a distinguished model for bilateral relations between Arab countries based on integration and common interests, adding that these strong ties are not limited to the diplomatic and leadership level only, but also include the peoples of the two countries. The event's agenda consists of several forums and sessions. An economic forum on day one sees a number of ministers, senior officials, businessmen, and economists attend. The forum reviews success stories of Egyptian and Emirati companies in different fields. On day two, a culture and media forum will be held in the presence of a group of intellectuals, media professionals, and prominent creative personalities. The forum will highlight the most important milestones in the Egypt-United Arab Emirates relationship in the field of media, culture, arts, and common history.
And to shed more light on the Egyptian-Emirati relations, we are joined over the phone by Dr. Said Al-Khouly, former Dean of the Faculty of Commerce, St. James University. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
So, sir, how do you read the speech that by President Fattah al-Sisi early on the day, on the occasion, marking 50 years since Egypt and the United Arab Emirates established relations?
First of all, the people of Emirates and the country of Emirates, and since Sheikh Zayed was in power, it have a strong relationship between Egyptian and the Emirati government. I remember I was in United Arab Emirates in Dubai for Emirates Summit, Government Summit in 2011. And I remember the son of Sheikh Zayed, Sheikh Saif Al-Nahyan, he was the Interior Minister at that time. And in his speech, for over 5,000 people from all over the world, he mentioned Egypt and what happened in Egypt during the January 25th revolution, and he said it in public in his speech, and he grabbed a loaf of bread and he cut it half and he said half of it for Emirati and half of it for Egyptian. I believe the Emirati people and the government of Emirates have a very strong relationship with Egypt since Sheikh Zayed. Remember President Sisi, when he mentioned in the economic summit we have yesterday, when he ended, he opened the door for all different kinds of investment. Last month, we have a delegate from Kuwait came to invest in Egypt, and the month before that, it was from Sultanate Oman, where we have business opportunity here in Egypt. Today, we are having 50 years of strong relationship between Egypt and United Arab Emirates, and most of business people came from Emirates in order to invest in Egypt, not only in real estate, but on all different sectors, in medical sector as well in many other sectors here in Egypt. The policy of President Sisi and with the leadership of him is to open the door for local investors and foreign investors and Arab investors from the Gulf and from Asia and so on. I believe in Egypt will be able to attract more and more and more foreign direct investments, whether it's from the Gulf, whether from the States, whether from Europe, Eastern Europe and Western Europe, and from Asia. Egypt is now it's a safe haven for investment due to the conflict and the crisis between Russian and Ukrainian war and the problems with the supply chain and the logistics worldwide. Now Egypt is safe haven for foreign direct investment.
Yes, sir, if we talk about Egyptian-Emirati relations and how this relation developed in the past, in the last 50 years on economic level.
In economic level, we have the second investor from the Arab countries. First of all, Saudi Arabia is number one. United Arab Emirates come in the second place. And not only for this year or the last year or the 5 years ago, the history goes back to 50 years. Remember, during 73 war, United Arab Emirates and especially Sheikh Zayed, he stands with all his power, with all his budget to support Egyptian in 73. We are not going to forget that. And that is the stand for economic development between Egypt and United Arab Emirates. It's not a recent, but it goes back for 50 years. Very strong relationship for over the last 50 years. And it will continue because Egyptian and Emirati hand in hand in order to develop their economy and our economy as well.
Yes. So, sir, what is the volume of Emirati investments here in Egypt?
As I mentioned before, it comes to the second place after Saudi Arabia, where we have a huge investment. I cannot talk about the numbers of this investment. The statistics not in mind right now, but it comes in the second place after Saudi Arabia.
Yes,
it's a huge investment. The investment was before in real estate investment. Now we see they are directing their attention to the medical sector, to pharmaceutical industry, and all of that. Remember Egypt with the opening of Black Sand, which President Sisi opened a couple of weeks ago. It opened the door for investing in this black sand, and it can be used, this raw material, in many industries by adding value to it.
Yes. And in your opinion, how can we attract more Emirati investments in the coming period? And what is the Emirati investor, what sector is interesting for Emirati investors?
Remember, I have visitors from Emirates come over the last period of time for the last 2 years.
Yes.
And whenever they come and they see Egypt is changing. It's changing for a better, for infrastructure. And when I talk about infrastructure, I'm not talking about roads or tunnels or bridges. They are seeing a lot of advancement in terms of power supply, in terms of safe environment for investment. So the return of investment is very high in Egypt over any other state close by. I believe there is a lot of opportunity Now we have investment law, which simplifies the process of startup business for investing. And the process, instead of taking months, now it's a matter of days where you can finish all the process for establishing new business. So, and the commitment of the leaders of Egypt, President Sisi, he opened the door and he stands for any obstacle facing foreign direct investment. And I believe that's a new environment, that's a new leadership of President Sisi, which it opens the door for investment for Emirates and as well as many other countries in the world.
So, sir, how far the signing of the industrial partnership for sustainable economic growth boosted the bilateral economic ties?
Remember, as we mentioned before, a strategic alliance where you can have investors from overseas, and we built a new technology. Remember, President Sisi mentioned a year ago, we are having to go for fourth industrial revolution. Fourth industrial revolution, it means a new means of attracting technology, new technology, and it will help this industry, will help when we open factory in industrial sector, which employ thousands of Egyptians to work in that. Remember, the unemployment rate is going down, and it will go down in the near future. Also, the growth rate is went from 3.3 according to industrial indicator in terms of international indicators such as Standard & Poor's, Fitch model, International Monetary Fund, International Bank, European Bank for Development. Egypt will reach 6.6 this year, and I believe next year it will go over 7%. The classification of worldwide safe haven for investment, we are in the B plus now and will be in A in the near future. This is due to the economical development, which it helped us to stand for after the crisis of COVID-19, after the crisis of shortage of supply chain, according to Russian war, Egypt's economic development is going the right direction, and I believe President Sisi not talking about industrial, he's talking about agriculture, he's talking about social enhancement for improving the quality of life for Egyptian people.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Said Al-Khouly, former Dean of the Faculty of Commerce in Shams University. And as I said earlier, that President Fattah Sisi delivered a speech on the occasion marking the 50 years since Egypt and the United Arab Emirates established relations. And in his speech to a celebration held under the slogan Egypt and the UAE One Heart, the President hailed the distinguished and strong ties that bind the two brotherly Arab nations throughout times as a model pattern to follow. The head of state further praised the real and sincere values of their friendship, as well as UAE stances that support Egypt during the past years, noting that their ties depend on respect and cordiality. The head of state said that throughout ages and with successive governments and leaderships, bilateral ties remain strong and close, referring to economic and investment cooperation in all fields and horizons of comprehensive cooperation. And back to Africa today, and still with some reports from the African continent, negotiators for the Ethiopian government and regional forces from Tigray were due to meet in the South African capital Pretoria for the first formal peace talks since war broke out 2 years ago. The talks come after Ethiopian military and their allies, who include troops from neighboring Eritrea, captured several large towns in Tigray region in northern Ethiopia. More in this report.
A South African government spokesman said that peace talks to end Ethiopia's Tigray conflict have begun in South Africa. It's the highest-level effort yet to end 2 years of fighting that has killed perhaps hundreds of thousands of people. The spokesman for South African President Cyril Ramaphosa said that African Union-led talks that started Tuesday are expected to continue until Sunday. Delegations from the Ethiopian government and Tigray authorities arrived in South Africa this week. There was no immediate comment from either side. Former Nigerian President and AU envoy, former South African Deputy President, and former Kenyan President are facilitating the talks with the encouragement of the United States, whose Special Envoy Mike Hammer picked up the Tigray delegation in a U.S. military aircraft on Sunday. The conflict has sharply changed the fortunes of Ethiopia's Nobel Peace Prize winning Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, who went to war with his country's northern Tigray region less than a year after receiving the award for making peace with neighboring Eritrea. The peace talks, led by Ethiopia's National Security Advisor Redwan Hussein and by Tigray Forces spokesman. Ethiopian and allied forces from Eritrea have taken over some urban areas in Tigray in the past few days. The Tigray region of more than 5 million people is again cut off from the world by renewed fighting that began in late August following months of a lull in the conflict that allowed combatants to regroup. All combatants have committed abuses, according to United Nations human rights investigators who recently signaled out that Ethiopian government as using starvation of civilians as a weapon of war. The war, since exploding in November 2020, has also spilled over into Ethiopia's neighboring Amhara and Afar regions, putting hundreds of thousands of people there in peril. Academics and health workers have estimated that hundreds of thousands of people have been killed by conflict and deprivation, and the United States has begun warning of 500,000 casualties.
And they're moving to Morocco, as Marrakesh is home to a secret paradise, garden of plants and artworks designed by the Austrian artist. The 8-acre site is open to visitors who come to wander through the paths of the eccentric attraction. More in this report.
Dragon trees, flowers, and many others are all growing in the same garden 27 kilometers away from Marrakesh, Morocco, in the Ourika Valley. But the star of this garden is not just nature, it's also art. Flowers, trees, and other plants are surrounded by artworks scattered throughout the park. Austrian artist André Heller, 75 years old, is the mastermind behind this place. In 2008, he started to build this garden from scratch. 8 years later, the Animo Garden was born. In this garden, there are no fences nor labels for the artworks or the plants. The objective is to let the visitors walk around freely. Over 20 acres, the garden houses more than 50 types of trees, 150 types of plants, and also flowers from all over the world. More than 50 artworks are displayed in anima, most are sculptures. Works by African artists are also on show. Heller wanted to give them part of the spotlight to recognize African art's influence on European art. Some of them were collected or even made by Heller. There is a giant head sending a mist of water, a mirror house next to an olive tree, a ship, and huge eyes hanging in the trees. More than 200 people visit the garden every day. Most are foreign tourists.
Well, dear viewers, by that we come to the end of today's edition of Africa Today. Thank you for watching.